So next chapter that we need to look at is chapter 22, the nature of operations. Okay, I'll start by reading the learning outcomes. Number one, understand what is meant by operations management. That's important. Right, so this whole concept of operations. Number two, appreciate the nature of the production process and how value can be added. That's important. So now, remember we spoke about why do businesses operate? Why do they operate? To create value. Okay, value is important. Okay, if you're not creating value, then the business is going to fail. Number three, understand the difference between production and productivity, efficiency and effectiveness. Okay, that's quite interesting. What's the difference between those words? We'll see later. And then the last one is evaluate the different advantages and disadvantages for labor intensity and capital intensity. Right, so those are the things that we're going to cover here. First thing we need to do is define operations. Do they give you a definition here in the green box? Let's just have a look. No, they don't. Right, so we're going to have to define it ourselves. They do talk about operations and operations management briefly in the introduction. So let's put a heading for this. Operations, two dots, asterisk, the day-to-day. This is my own definition for it. We'll look at what's in the textbook. But this is what operations looks at. The day-to-day running of the business. That's what you're looking at here. Okay, we just summarize it like in very simple, plain, easy to understand, okay, language. Okay, so introduction in the textbook, they say, operations management is concerned with using resources called inputs to provide outputs. We can add that to this. Inputs used to create outputs. Inputs used to create outputs. That's the next part. All right, and then they talk about different goods and services. Then they say, in operations, managers must be concerned with three things. Okay, operations management, we're putting another heading here. Operations management equals, two dots. Number one, first topic, efficiency of production. That's the first one. The spelling here. Efficiency. I-E. Efficiency. I hope that's right. Yeah, that's right. Efficiency of production. That's the key. Right, so let me ask you this. What does it mean to be efficient?
Effective in a way.
Okay, effective and efficiency is different. We're going to look at that later.
Efficiency is like on time,
there we
quality.
There we go, that's better.
All those factors together.
100%. So keep it simple. This is how I would remember it. Look at those words. Inputs used to create outputs. Efficient means I take 1 hour to take flour, milk, and other ingredients to make a cake. Okay, that's efficient. Someone who's inefficient takes the same milk and flour and other ingredients, but they take 2 hours to produce the same cake.
Yeah.
Right, that's efficiency. So efficiency of production means being able to produce more output in a certain amount of time. That's important. I.e., how efficient is the bakery? Okay, I'm just going to use that example, question mark. So the bakery is going to be efficient if the bakery is going to be baking lots of cakes. Right, they're inefficient if it takes them a day to produce cake. Right, that's bad. Right, they're not efficient then. Okay, effective is different. We'll discuss what effective means. Right now, we're just talking about this whole idea of input and outputs. Okay, 2. What do they say here? Quality. That's important. Right, so again, operations management. We need to look at 2 things. Well, 3 things in total. The first thing is efficiency. So are people working efficiently? Right? Are they taking 1 hour to bake a cake, or are they taking 2, 3, 4, 5 hours? We need to check that. That's operations management. Okay, so for example, we talk about, like, we spoke about the attorneys coming for interviews, right? And they're obviously attorneys, so attorneys need to go to court.
Yeah.
Right, so they're going to court. Are they taking the whole day, right? Or are they taking a few hours? Okay, that's efficient, right? That's efficiency. Quality is how well do they work, right? Quality is, well, the cake that we made. So see again, inputs and outputs. Always keep it simple. Think about inputs and outputs. So if I'm baking a cake, does the cake taste delicious, or does the cake taste horrible? That's quality. Okay, you don't want to spend an hour baking a cake that no one wants to eat.
Yeah.
That's bad. Right, so quality is how good is the finished product? How good is the finished product? That's what we're looking at. Question mark. Obviously, we want higher quality rather than lower quality. So we want the best quality, in the shortest amount of time. Okay, so we're not going to rush the baker. If the baker's going to bake us cakes, we're not going to rush them. We want them to be efficient, but as efficient as possible, but also meeting a certain level of quality. All right, and that's important. We need to weigh up both efficiency and quality. So there's no point they're manufacturing hundreds of cakes, but all of them are horrible. Okay, that's bad. Because now, yes, they're efficient, but their quality is really terrible. And then the last point, the textbook talks about flexibility and innovation. Again, another quality that looks at operations management. Right, so when we're operating, we need to be flexible, we need to adapt. I mean, stuff goes wrong. Okay, there's problems, there's obstacles. Okay, nothing will ever be perfect. Right, so now operations management is, well, can we deal with those things that come up? Flexibility. I'm going to put a note here. Can we adapt and change to the market, or can we deal with obstacles / challenges? Okay, because that's going to happen. All businesses have them. Right, flexibility and innovation means, well, flexibility, can we adapt? Can we be flexible, or are we very rigid? So for example, are we set in our ways, okay, where we can't actually change? Change is good, so we need to have a level of flexibility, okay, being able to adapt. The other thing is innovation, right? Are we stuck in the past, or can we actually move forward? Right, so technology. Can we use technology to do things better? That's important, and that's operations management. Okay, so for example, there's a printer in this office. Okay, that printer looks quite new. Okay, if we had an old printer, is that going to affect operations? Definitely. An older printer, so that one there looks quite old. Okay, so that printer there probably can't print as fast as that one, and that printer there probably can't do as much as that one. Okay, that one can probably fax as well and do other things. But that's flexibility and innovation. Okay, innovation means, well, are we stuck in the past where we're just using that thing forever? Or do we get something newer and faster and better? Okay, that's what you look here. Why? Operations management. Inputs and outputs. Okay, so we've covered the first bit. The production or transformation process. In all businesses, at all stages of production, the production process is basically the same. Inputs need to be converted to outputs. Okay, this is a separate heading. So that's the first part. New slide, new heading.
Wait.
You still need it.
Yeah.
Sorry. Okay, going a bit too quickly. Okay, but did you understand those 3 points? Okay, that's the key. Just remember, operations is inputs and outputs. And how efficient, how much quality we've got, and can we adapt and change with challenges and obstacles. Yeah, so can we adapt and change to the market? Okay, so how do we deal with the market when things are changing? Or can we deal with obstacles or challenges? That's okay, the whole flexibility part. And then the last part I just looked at in terms of the innovation. Right, so are we stuck in the past, or are we actually progressing? Are we using modern technology? Because technology helps us to be more efficient. Technology helps us to do things better. Okay. Great, so new slide, new heading. Textbook now talks about this. The production or transformation process. Big heading, production, because there's quite a bit under this heading. Production process. Okay, the first thing that they look at in the process, or let's just describe what it is. These are the steps that need to be covered to get the output. Right, so we need to go through the process. If we want output, we need to go through the process. We take the inputs, we put it into the actual process. After we've done the process, we're going to end up with something. And that's what we're looking at. So the textbook talks about adding value. That's very important as well. The production process, the process must add value. If it doesn't, then what's the point of doing it? It needs to add value. Okay, so I take the flour, I take the eggs, I take the water, I take the milk and all other ingredients, and that makes the cake. Have I added value? Yes. If I don't end up with a cake, then what is the point of doing the process? Okay, then the recipe is not correct. Right, here they talked about adding value. See that key word, key term. That's an important concept. It's very important because we spoke about it earlier, right at the beginning. Why do businesses operate? It's to create value. It's always to create value. Right, the textbook goes on and they say, the degree of value created will be the sum of the inputs and depending on the factors listed below. Okay, so they've actually expanded on this whole idea of value. So I'm going to add that to this discussion. I'm going to put a note here. Adding value. And I'm going to put an equal sign. And I'm just going to write down these 3 points. Right, so the textbook gives you 3 considerations here when businesses are going to be adding value. The first they talk about is the design. That adds value. Right, and we know that. Let's talk about phones again. On Wednesday, we spoke about Apple and Samsung. Perfect example of design. Right, because those phones are designed so well, there's a lot of value that has been added. Yeah. Versus other phones that don't have as much of a design. Right, and that's what they talk about. They say economic. Is it manufactured well? Does it have certain features? What can it do? Etc., etc. Okay, some words that they've mentioned here. Right, another way to add value is the efficiency with which the input resources are combined and managed, i.e. reducing waste. So adding value means reducing waste. Okay, that's another way of adding value. So adding value doesn't only mean adding to the product, but also limiting the loss. Right, so if we're making a cake, are we throwing away a lot of the eggs? Okay, so are we using the egg yolks and the egg whites? Okay, maybe the eggs will... use it somewhere else. Yeah, maybe the yolks will be used in the baking, and then the whites might be used to make the topping or the icing or whatever. Okay, so see, that's adding value. If we're throwing away stuff, that's bad. And the last point, being able to convince consumers to pay more for the product than the cost of its inputs. So that's another bit. So adding value is the finished product, or maybe let's summarize instead of writing the whole sentence. Let me think now. How can we, let's use what they've given you here. Paying more for the item. selling price, higher selling price. Let's just use that. Okay, so do you agree, if I had the eggs and the milk and the water on its own, can I sell it at a higher price? No. But if I take all of it and I make a cake, I can sell it at a higher price. That's what they're talking about here. Being able to convince customers to pay more for the product than the cost of the inputs. That's what they're saying. Okay, so eggs, bread, eggs, flour, water, etc. Put all of that together, we can sell it for more than what those items would cost on its own. Okay, then they say the operations process can involve many stages before physically selling the good or service. These include converting the product, organizing, deciding. Okay, these are just different steps that they look at here in terms of the process. Okay, we know it's a process, so I'm not going to add that here. What I am going to add here, though, is what they give you here in the next part, is the resources, the production. Okay, they break it up into different levels. So we can put a heading here, parts of the process. Okay, let's label it A. First part, resources. Right, so this is looking at the process in more detail. The first part we just summarized. So what is the process? It's creating output. Now we need to look at the different parts of the process. So part number one, or step number one, is having resources. Why do we need resources? Those are our inputs. Inputs are necessary. Okay, what inputs are necessary? Do you still remember them? I'm going to cover it. Do you remember inputs? Resources. What do businesses need to start?
Resources, equipment.
Yes,
labor,
that's one. Yes, two. What's the other one?
Land and building.
You got it. Nice. Well done. You got all of it. FOP. Factors of production. I.e., the textbook gives it to you again. They give you land. They give you labor. And they give you capital, which is what you said, the equipment part of it. Okay, but they also put asterisks here. There's a keyword here, intellectual capital. So it's not only about the equipment, but also the intellectual capital. So in other words, can anyone bake a cake? No. Okay, you need a recipe. You need the intellectual capital. Right, so if you want to bake a nice cake, you need the right recipe. Okay, you might need a baker that has trained to create certain products. Right, yes, anybody might be able to put the bread and the egg and the flour together, but it's not going to come out the same. Okay. B. Production. Production capacity. No, not capacity, sorry. Production and productivity. This is looking at the capacity. Production and productivity. That's the next part. Okay, in this part, they talk about the level of production. So do you agree all companies have a certain amount of capacity? Mm-hmm. Okay, so if we're baking cake, do you agree we're going to have an oven, we're going to have equipment, we're going to have a baker? With the resources we have, we can only bake a certain amount of cakes. Right, and that's what you're looking at here. So part of the process, B, is look at the production of productivity in terms of capacity. Capacity to produce. Level of production. Okay, what are we looking at here with level of production? You do need two calculations. So, subheading here. Labor productivity equals, okay, this is the formula, total output in a given time divided by total workers. Total workers employed. Okay, total workers. Employed, do I need to put that word? I think total workers is fine, eh? Alright, that's what you've got there. Let's just put a line. Numerator and denominator. There's the one equation. There's only two equations here. It's not too much maths, just a little bit. Okay, that's the first one. Second one, capital productivity. Okay, when we look at labor, who are we looking at there? People, do you agree? Okay, so this first one is looking at people. Okay, how productive are the people? That's important, because it's labor. Here we look at capital productivity. This is how productive is the equipment. Okay, so if I talk about the baking example, do you agree the person baking the cake is the person which is the labor? So how many cakes can that person actually do in terms of their hours, right? And then the capital productivity is, well, how long does the oven need to operate for? Okay, because every cake needs so many minutes in the oven.
Yeah.
Okay, so the capital productivity is looking at that. Output divided by capital employed. Employed. There we go. Okay, and that's what we're looking at there in terms of its calculation. So that's how much we've produced divided by what have we employed. Okay, what capital we've employed. Right, that's what they've given you here. I think that's fine. We've covered that. Oh, maybe just a note here. Sure, sweating. You see? Sure, was that hectic? Wow. The interview must have gone, I don't know, well or not so well for the guy. Shame. Did you see? He was like, shame. Okay. Raising productivity. What I wanted to add here was technological advanced machines. Okay, this is looking at asterisk, technology. Right, so capital productivity always links to technology. Why? Depending on what we're using, things will either be easier or more difficult to produce. Okay, so do you agree not all ovens are the same? You get very big ovens, you get very small ovens. When looking at the production process, the capital productivity is going to look at that technology. Okay, how many hours? So here they give you an example. See, company A, company B, and they look at the labor. Okay, so obviously labor productivity. Which company has better workers?
Number of workers employed, labor productivity, this company.
The second one.
So they have more workers.
They've got more workers. Yeah, so more workers means they're more productive. So it might be because everybody has a specific role, so they can be more productive. Because think about this. If you have to do everything, how productive are you going to be?
Not very productive.
Not very productive because you're doing everything.
Yeah.
But now if you can split it, you can do things together. Okay. Alright, next bit. Raising productivity levels. So actually we still need to add to this. So I'm going to just copy this page. Just delete some of this other stuff. And then we can add to this. Okay, this is still looking at productivity. But we look at raising productivity levels. So asterisks here or subheading. Let's do a subheading. Raising productivity. Okay, number one. Improve the training of staff to raise their skills. Training staff. Bracket skills. That's the summary for that part. Do you agree if people can do more, they'll be more productive? There's the first part. Okay, that's the first point that the textbook has given you. If you can improve their training and give them more skills, they'll be able to do different jobs. They'll be able to do more. They'll be more productive. That's what they've described here in the paragraph. Number two, improve motivation. Motivation. Goals, etc., etc. Right, so are they motivated? Are you incentivizing them to work harder, to work faster, to work better? Right, companies might choose to raise the productivity levels by motivate or better motivating their staff. Okay, if staff are demotivated, they're not really going to work, and that's bad. Number 3, purchase more technology advanced equipment. I'm going to say upgrade. Upgrade technology. Just to summarize that point. Okay, to read what they've given you here. They said, from modern machinery, from office computers to robotic machines should allow increased output with fewer staff. Such expensive equipment will only be worthwhile if higher output is maintained. So, brackets, upgrade technology, machines being able to produce goods faster. Okay, so we might choose to replace an employee if the machine can do the same thing.
Yeah.
That's what we're considering here. Number 4, better management, efficient management. What did they say here? Supervising staff, checking staff, etc. Okay, checking staff, supervision, etc. That's what they described there. Right, and those are the 4 methods that they described in the textbook that's going to be used to raise productivity. Train your staff, motivate them, use better technology, and make sure you're managing things correctly. Okay, and better. Okay, fast bits. Is raising productivity always the answer? What do you think?
No, because sometimes the quality
Good.
is bad.
Yes. And something else to consider?
More costs.
Yes. Okay. That's actually probably the biggest thing, because do you agree if you train your staff, you should get the same quality? So quality is not so much of a factor. Here they said increasing productivity does not guarantee success. Why? Costs are going to be increasing potentially, but you could look at being more cost effective. See, that's this whole idea of efficiency versus effectiveness, which we have to describe. Right, so NB, increasing productivity does not always increase efficiency. Effectiveness is the key. Right, so let's describe that. Or let me ask you this. Can you differentiate between being efficient and being effective?
Effective is more looking at quality and how good it is.
Well done.
And efficiency is like how quickly you can get it done.
That's 100% correct. That's 100% correct. That's brilliant. Right, nice. You know it. Okay, so efficiency is looking at input and output only. Do you agree production shouldn't only be looking at efficiency? Okay, because we can produce lots of stuff, but as you said, the quality might be quite bad. Okay, or the quality might be affected. Right, effectiveness focuses more on the quality of the goods being produced. Right, so effectiveness is actually the key. That's why productivity isn't all of it. I mean, it's not, yes, it's important. Okay, being productive is very important, but if you're productive and you're not creating good output, good results, then what's the point? Okay, so let me use the example of studying. Okay, so you're studying. Efficiency is input and output. Okay, so efficiency means, like, with the time that we've got, how much did we do? Okay, that's efficient. Okay, so efficient would be, well, you've done lots of good notes. See, you're killing two birds with one stone. We're looking at the textbook, we're going through the material, and you're making notes at the same time. So are you efficient?
Yeah.
Yes. Effective is the quality of the goods produced. So effectiveness is, did you get an A?
Did I learn?
No, well, kind of, but it's more the result.
Yeah.
Okay, effectiveness is the finished product. So the finished product of all the studying. So efficiency is like, you're definitely efficient. You're very disciplined. You're hardworking. Okay, you're making good notes. Okay, that's efficiency. So
Yeah.
in terms of a student who's being efficient, I'll give you full marks for that. But effective, we still need to see.
Yeah.
Right, so effectiveness is, well, what is the result going to look like? Okay, if you get 100%, then that's 100% for effectiveness. But obviously there are other factors to consider. I'm just like simplifying it.
Yeah.
Okay, but that's effective. So effective is, how did this actually help with the overall results? Okay, the quality of the goods were produced. Right, that's what we described here. So let's just add to it. Efficiency, just to see if we've covered everything. Efficiency, producing output at the highest ratio of output to input. See, that's what we spoke about.
Yeah.
Right, and that's, I'm just going to add that. Quantity. Quantity. That's the focus. Right, so if you're looking at efficiency, you just want more products to be produced. You don't really care what the actual quality is. It's all about quantity. Effectiveness, meeting the objectives of the enterprise by using inputs productively to meet customer needs. Okay, effectiveness, meeting the objectives of the enterprise by using inputs productively to meet customer needs. See, there's the key. Okay, so this is looking at quality. I've got the quality there. I'm just going to write their needs and wants. Right, so does the product actually meet the needs? Right, so for example, if we look at baking cake, obviously the needs and wants would be a cake that tastes nice, not one that's just baked for the sake of baking it. Right, and I'm going to highlight the word quality. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else here. Okay, here they talk about 25 years of experience. So if someone has experience, are they going to be efficient and effective?
Yeah.
They should be efficient because they've done lots of work. And effective? Yes, because their quality should improve over time.
Yeah.
Right, that should be the case. That's what they've described here about bicycles being manufactured. I think that's fine. Okay, great. And then the last bit here, labor intensity and capital intensity. That's the last bit. Okay, so last slide. Still looking at, this is still looking at the process, yes. We need to label this though. Actually, I should have labeled these. I see this is a separate heading. I'm going to put C here. Okay. Okay, and then we've got D, last bit, part of the process. D. Okay. Labor intensity. Intensity versus capital intensity. That's the last bit here. Right, the definitions are important. Maybe you want to write these two down, they're good. It summarizes everything quite nicely as well. Okay, so labor intensity is high level of labor input compared with capital. So higher level of labor versus or compared to capital. Okay, and then capital intensity higher level of machinery or capital, equipment. Capital brackets e.g. equipment to labor. Right, so here's my example. Right, labor intensity versus capital intensity. Right, let's talk about this type of business that your mom has, okay? As a conveyancer, as an attorney, okay, operating a law firm. Okay, labor intensive, capital intensive. Labor intensive. That's why you've got all these people coming for interviews. Okay, why? Because you need more people than you need computers and desks and chairs and things like that. Okay, because it's labor intense. Labor intense meaning people need to do the work. Capital intensity is where we have machines that need to do the work. So let's talk about a car manufacturer. Would a car manufacturer need more people or more machinery? More machinery. See, that's the opposite.
Yeah.
Okay, because manufacturing cars it's very, very specific in terms of the shape of the car, the engines, etc., etc. Okay, so just to add maybe one or two notes there. Labor-intensive production methods might be appropriate for a furniture company that specializes in making furniture by hand. See?
Yeah.
Versus this, then they say, let's just look at the other one. There. In contrast, many industries that supply mass-produced goods are capital-intensive. So that's something else to add here. I just want to add this next to it. E.g., handmade products versus mass-produced. Capital intensity, a lot of the same goods produced at scale, at a larger scale. Mass production. Right, and that's what they've described there in your textbook, because they've given you a picture here of a guy that's hand carving furniture. Right, have a look at these guys. Okay, very, very labor intensive, because those items of furniture are handmade, and those are generally like more your antiques. Okay, there's only one of that item. Right, it's not mass produced.
Yeah,
right, these chairs are mass produced because this chair looks the same as that chair, looks the same as that chair. Okay, mass produced. Right, versus something that's unique and something that's different. Right. Well done. Happy. Perfect.